People are always saying that they wish they had better candidates that would run for office. I don't think that's true, because when good people run for office just because I want to serve my community, and then this is what happens to me, why would anyone want to run when you have groups like Turning Point that can go out there and put up thousands of signs and send nasty emails and tell lies about you?
And welcome back to Square Off. That was Mesa Councilwoman Julie Spilsbury speaking to our Chase Golightly after she was defeated in a so-called revenge recall election. The winner, Dorian Taylor, was a former employee of Turning Point USA's political arm. The recall was initiated by Turning Point Action, the campaign run by them. Tyler Boyer, TP Action's top executive, bragged on social media that this was the biggest win in America on Election Day. A few people might quibble with that. Our politics panel steps in now to discuss the Arizona takeaways from local elections and the Democrats' big night in East Coast races. Welcome back to Democratic election lawyer Roy Herrera and Republican activist Tyler Montague. Before I get to the elections, I want to get your reaction to what we just heard from Kris Mayes, AG Kris Mayes, about the fate of the fake electors investigation. Does her answer or answers, do they tell you it's over?
She's dropping it, apparently.
That's your takeaway?
That's my takeaway.
Roy?
I think it's likely, and I think that, it's unfortunate. You asked her the question of democracy, is it worth fighting for? Of course it is. There are, of course, realities, though, with how the laws have been interpreted by judges, and you have to look at that and the resources and time that takes, and from that answer, I think she probably will.
All right, let's get going with our takeaways from the elections. Tyler, Mesa is your home. You supported Julie Spilsbury. I think you played an active role. You contributed money toward the end.
That's right.
You are no fan of TPUSA. You've made that clear in the past. Where does this election leave us? And is it a message to nonpartisan school boards and other nonpartisan city councils that Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action could be coming after you?
I think that's what they wanted to accomplish, and they did, right? They spent, we'll never know, I would guess $500,000 on this race. From the amount of door contacts they were doing, signs, all the messaging. It was an enormous effort. Apparently they flew people in from around the country, flew them right over Virginia and New Jersey, where Republicans were losing real races, to swap out one Republican for another on Mesa's council. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's performative, but it is tribal enforcement. So I think it was effective from that point of view. But
does it go beyond Mesa?
If they choose to, I think they would run out of money and resources. And it's kind of emblematic of what Turning Point has accomplished. When something goes wrong, let's eliminate Republicans that disagree with this. It's very Kerry Lake, right? McCain Republicans leave, and it leads to losses. And I think that's ultimately what Turning Point has produced, is losses for Republicans.
No, they've still been a potent force, potent get out the vote force. We've seen that in past elections here, almost taking the place of the Republican Party itself. Let's turn to the off-year elections. Virginia, New Jersey, New York City, Democrats swept the top offices. It wasn't even close, and now a socialist is leading the capital of capitalism. We heard what Kris Mayes had to say about her takeaway. What's your takeaway that will carry over to Arizona in 2026?
Well, I think it was an overwhelming victory for Democrats all across the country, really. I mean, you mentioned Virginia, New Jersey, New York. That's obviously the case there. But even places like Georgia, for the first time, Democrats won statewide races, in over 10 years, I think, in Georgia. Even in places like Mississippi, we saw legislative races flip to the Democrats. So I think across the board, Democrats did very well. And I think the reason why they did so well, just looking at the data, is there's huge shifts back from Latinos, young voters, even swaths of Republicans towards the Democrats. And I think the easiest explanation for why is the question of affordability. It's people that are upset about how the cost of living is going and upset at President Trump and the Trump administration for not doing anything about affordability like he had promised during the campaign trail last year.
Is that going to carry over here in 2026? Affordability, is that the issue?
That is the issue. Those macro factors are why Democrats lost in 2024 and why Trump is imperiling himself in this next cycle. Those things matter.
And so for Democrats looking for a life preserver, drill down a bit. How do you How do you present that here in Arizona? How do you make that case, and what do you point to that you do want to do something?
Well, another factor in Tuesday's election, of course, is that we're in the middle of a government shutdown. I mean, the longest government shutdown in American history. And one of the central questions, one of the debates we are having relates to affordability, and that's the affordability of health care. So, for example, Democrats are asking for an extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies so that premiums don't go up for people. Republicans don't want to do that. And so as an example of where Democrats stand on the issue of affordability, it's advocating for things like that to actually make things cheaper. Tariffs is another good example. I mean, tariffs, which is something this administration is focused so much on, are not going to do anything to bring down costs for anybody. And so I think you focus on things like that in the races here next year.
What about Zohran Mamdani, the incoming mayor of New York City? I'm fixated on the fact of generational change that we began to see in 2024, we'll continue to see in 2026. How much does he represent that to young people, not just in New York City, but across the country?
I think it's kind of contained in New York City, honestly. Mamdani is a gift to Republicans. They will make him be the banner carrier for the Democratic Party and campaign against him. He will be a foil for Republicans. And if he's far out there and trying to enact unpopular positions, that's what they will use. So he's kind of a gift to Republicans.
And how did Democrats parry that?
Well, I mean, first of all, the Democratic Party is a big tent party. There's a lot of different kinds of Democrats. I don't think that he would do very well in Arizona, for example.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, not on a statewide basis. But I do think there's takeaways from his win. One is the generational change thing. There's also a thing about authenticity to him that I think a lot of candidates can learn from. But going back to what I said before about what I think next year is going to be all about, he did focus a lot on affordability. And at the end of the day, if Democrats are focusing on attacking that problem, I think we're going to do well in Arizona.
All right, got to end it there. Tyler Montague, Roy Herrera, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests. Thank you so much for joining us. See you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.